shine, this little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine, this little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
The most common biblical image for God's compassion and God's mercy is food. The most common biblical image for God's compassion and God's mercy is food. And we find it all over. The Genesis story. God has created this creation complete with plants and trees that bear good food, with fish and birds and animals. And in the Old Testament, we encounter these famine stories that God shows up, or a messenger of God shows up with food, compassion, and blessing. We have the wilderness story when God provides manna. And what did the people do? They complain. So out of God's compassion and mercy, there is not only manna, but the quail also arrive. We get to the New Testament, and Jesus says, I am the bread of life. The ultimate form of God's compassion being poured out upon God's beloved, God's only Son, willing to come and be one of us. And most certainly the Eucharist. This is my body. This is my blood given and shed for you. Food. Images of God's compassion and mercy. But here's the other part of it, and it's the part we're going to encounter once we get to St. Matthew. Upon those that God's mercy and God's compassion has been poured out, there is a call to share that compassion and to share it bountifully. Today, the prophet Isaiah is using those food metaphors to articulate God's compassion. So he starts out, come all who are thirsty. Now come. I have to say, as I thought about this week, I thought about it in terms of our mission statement. Our mission statement is welcome, encourage, accept all people. Now, what would happen if we amped that up to where Isaiah is? Because Isaiah isn't just welcome, Isaiah is inviting. What would happen if our mission statement, and we were to live it out, instead of it being we welcome all people, we invite all people. We accept, we encourage all those whom we've invited. Come. It is an invitation. And it is an invitation to all. All. No insiders and outsiders. It's not about who's worthy or who's not worthy. All. And then we add that kicker, all who are thirsty. So the more needy, the more desperate, the more parched, those are the ones told to come. Come without price and without money. It's not about being worthy, and it's not about meriting these gifts or earning these gifts. The gifts are entirely grace given. Come. Come to the water. Come, have milk and wine. There is plenitude. And not only is there plenitude, Isaiah says, come and partake of the rich food. There is no top ramen at this feast. The prophet Isaiah lays out God's compassion. It is for all people. It is entirely a grace gift. It is plentiful, and it is extravagant. And from there, we get to go to St. Matthew. Jesus is grieving the death of John the Baptizer. And he goes off to be alone. And instead of being alone, the people press in. I don't know how it is for you when you've got an agenda and that agenda is interrupted. Well, for Jesus, when that happens, what leads is compassion. Now, here's the thing about divine compassion. It's not just that, ooh, and then moving on. The divine compassion is earthy, and it's hands-on, and it meets people where they are, and it meets very real needs. So the people press in, and the first thing Jesus does is he heals them. He heals whatever is going on for them. And the day goes on. And eventually it's clear that there are more needs within those people. Disciples. They're practical. They're practical. We can't take care of this. We don't have the resources to feed the hordes. So they go to Jesus. Jesus says, feed them. Fish, barley loaves. Again, Jesus, practical, hands-on, blesses the elements, blesses the food, but gives it back to the disciples to do the work. Do you see, this is always a team. Always a team. And when they've given the food to the people are filled. They are satisfied. And not only they're satisfied, they're leftovers. So, here we are, disciples. Here we are, God's called people. The people upon whom compassion has been poured. And we are the ones challenged to live out abundance such that there is leftover compassion when we're done. So on this day, as we gather with these food images, images of compassion, images of grace in the wilderness, will we walk away seeing this as a miracle of multiplication? Or will we walk away seeing this as a miracle of transformed hearts? Disciples that go from being selfish and short-sighted to disciples that move towards compassion and abundance. We who have been fed, we who will be fed, we who have been blessed with the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. When we leave here this day, what will we do with what has been entrusted to us? Amen.
Well, this light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Every day, every day, every day, every day, every day, I let my little light shine. Oh, Jesus gave me light, I'm gonna let it shine.